beauty and function. That's always been kind of the guiding principles of the work that we do. It's not it's not like a disposable piece. Oh, it's broken, I'm just going to throw it away.
No.
We don't use any kind of plating. We don't put anything on there just because our pieces are made to be used.
Copper has so many properties, and I think humanity has only just begun to really discover them all.
Right, or rediscover.
Welcome to today's interview here on Brighteon.com. I am pleased to be joined today by the founder of a company that makes some incredible, water filters and dishware, so much more out of copper. One of the most historically significant elements that's ever been discovered on planet Earth, right alongside gold and silver. And it's interesting that they are in the same column on the table of elements as well. So my guest today is Jonathan Beall, and he's the founder of a company called Sertodo, which offers these products. We're partnering with them at healthrangerstore.com. I'll tell you about that coming up. Welcome, Mr. Beall. It's an honor to have you here today.
Thank you very much, Mike. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, thank you for coming, and it's great meeting you because when I first saw your products, just the incredible beauty of it and the copper craftsmanship and the purity of it, I was stunned. And I said to myself, this is what I want to have in my house. Tell us a little bit about your company, Sertodo, and what you're into and why.
Sure. Well, as you mentioned, copper's been around for a long time. The first metal really brought humans into the metal age. And it's just been a part of the human hearth and home for thousands of years, and really integral part of many different cultures. I just really fell into this copper work almost 30 years ago, about 27 years ago now, driving around in Mexico, and some man was an ambulant copper vendor was setting some goods out on the side of the road, and I've been driving all night, and the same kind of thing that you're noticing here, it just drew me in. It was shining in the morning light, and I could just really see just how honest the work was that went into one of these pieces. Just, if these hammer marks were like an alphabet, you could read the whole story of how these pieces are made here.
So what's incredible to me is that each of these stands as a piece of art in addition to its functionality. And there's also a health benefit that I'd love to talk about at some point. But you could put this in your home as an artwork.
Definitely. I totally agree. Beauty and function, that's always been kind of the guiding principles of the work that we do. The pieces that we make, the pieces that I originally started making, almost 30 years ago, people are still using those pieces today. So
wow.
It's not it's not like a disposable piece. Oh, it's broken, I'm just going to throw it away.
No.
With time and use, it just continues to look better and improve in your house, and it shows all the wear and time, and just like your grandmother's old copper pieces, everybody loves to, have those, and it's the same idea that we have, is that, 50 years from now, when, our grandkids are looking through the old copper, they're going to see, oh, this is a Sertodo copper piece, and, maybe they'll check in their Oculus about where they can get another one, and hopefully we'll still be around doing that.
But it's funny you mentioned that, because what I love about your products is that I think we're having a backlash against the artificial world, and we're seeing a cultural return to what's real. And commodities or elements, metals, precious metals, gold, for example, just hit a new all-time high in terms of dollars. Silver is being purchased in record quantities, and it's hit a 14-year high. All over the world, cultures not only have valued gold and silver and copper, which of course has been used as money in other civilizations before, but they valued it for its specific physical properties, its resilience, or like in the case of gold, its resistance to oxidation and so on, but also then its beauty. So all three of these have a natural beauty that cannot be synthesized.
Right.
And would you agree that our world is, people who are informed really value things that are real now, even in a society that's becoming increasingly artificial.
Sure. So much is abstract and you can't touch it, whether it's social media, internet, which is a great medium for communication and information, but having things that are real in your life, things you can touch. And this is a part of my daily routine. And it's something that you can really feel. And when you're using some of our goods, what I always like to say is it's just, when you're grabbing that, it's like, oh, this is something that just feels good. And copper, speaking of money and value, like the copper penny. Well, pennies aren't really copper anymore. Yeah. 1982 and before, they were solid copper. But, it's always been something that just is tactile, wants to be around. And one thing that I've always noticed is just when I have what I call a critical mass of copper on display somewhere, people just can't help themselves but come up and be like, oh, this is so nice. And they're touching it. And there's something that just throughout our human civilization, we're drawn to this material.
And because of the texture, you want to touch it. You do want to feel it. And that's an additional piece of sensory input. Walk us through this, because this is a water filter.
Sure. This
is a gravity filter. And actually, let's start over here with the side camera. Can you just tell us what these pieces are?
Oh, certainly. What we have over there, we've got some my favorite cups, the iced tea cups, and also some Mexican mule cups that we've got over there, whether you want to do tequila, gin, or vodka with ginger beer. Any kind of ice drink if you want the strong medicine of like fire water in there. And then our gangotri pitcher with a lid.
That's the tall one.
Yeah.
Let me move it, because this is behind it, and it's kind of creating an illusion. There's the pitcher. And here's the lid. Does that make sense, everybody? Actually, let me just point this to the camera to show the inside.
Sure, solid copper in there. And there's our story in there also.
Solid copper and a brochure.
Yes.
There's the copper that you're looking for, right there.
Yeah, we don't use any kind of plating or we don't put any kind of sealant or anything on there. A lot of the things that people, maybe have come to expect, which is kind of a new thing, is that, oh, this is always going to look like this. And, when you put some kind of sealant on the copper, it'll look good for maybe, 2 years, but then this oxidization process starts to happen underneath the sealant. And we don't put anything on there just because our pieces are made to be used. And they're made to interact with their environment. And as you use these, you can see just like a warm patina develop, like you would see on a copper penny. But also at any point that can be easily polished off with, whether it's lemon juice and salt or some kind of polishing product that's going to bring out this inherent shine of the metal.
Yeah, it just takes a little bit of acid. Right. To bring back the shine. Same thing with silver.
Same thing with
silver coins or silver.
Yeah. Gold is really interesting that it does not tarnish.
Yeah.
It also doesn't harden when you work it. Yeah. And with copper, as you work it, the material, it's a soft material and malleable, which is how we put it through all the processes we do to make something like this. And the hammering that we do on there isn't just like an aesthetic detail. It actually it does two purposes. The hammers we use have a real high polished surface on it, so it's like a mirror when you look at it. And when you beat it on there, it telescopes that mirror finish onto the material. And then also what happens is copper has like a crystalline structure, and that crystalline structure compacts and work hardens the piece. So it just makes for a more durable good that you're going to get.
That's really interesting. So when people are looking at this, every, facet on firearms, it might be called something like stippling or something, right? But every little piece here has been struck by a hammer with a human hand to create all of this.
Right, every one of those. And I can kind of look at these and see, well, this looks like Jorge was doing it just by the spacing in his lines, the shape of the hammer marks, the hammers, it's everyone, it's like a signature. And each one of these pieces is somebody sitting down putting, an incredibly skilled focus into this material to get the results that we get out of there.
And how many years does it take a new person who wants to learn this art, this craft? How many years does it take them to get to where they could produce a piece like this?
Oh, I would say I did an apprenticeship for about a year, and I learned just some of the basic knowledge of, we recycle copper, how to reclaim that copper, melt it down, pound it out into an ingot, raise it into a vessel. And I would think that for the hammering, to really get the pulse, tempo, it's a good probably 2 months of, we'll have them hammer, starting off on, they might do the bottom of the cups, and get a little technique there. And then we'll move them up to, something that's simpler on a bigger cup. And and then also what happens is, it's a whole interplay between the tools and the maker. And just the position it is on the anvil and being able to maintain the shapes. We're definitely, our workshop is a mix between, pre-industrial, old world techniques with a few modern tools, semi-modern, early industrial, I would say. And one of the most modern things we have is a TIG welder. Yeah, which is amazing for welding copper, because copper is very sensitive to the especially to oxygen, and you have to have a shielded arc to get a really nice weld on the pieces.
Let me tell our audience, if you'd like to get some of these for yourself, because we've partnered with the Sertodo company, you can get these at healthrangerstore.com/copper. We just made it very easy for you to spell. So again, healthrangerstore.com/copper. It will take you here, and you can find any of the Sertodo products, including the water filter here and many other pieces that I'm not even showing you at the moment. All of these are available now, and they ship from Texas, correct?
Correct, yep, right here in Austin.
Now, there's so much to talk about when it comes to copper. Copper it's in extremely high demand for industrial uses. Trump has announced AI data center expansions in Texas and other places. We're talking like $1 trillion of AI data centers.
Right.
Well, some significant portion of that is going to be spent on buying copper, just for copper wires, the conductivity of copper, right?
Yeah.
There's a 50% tariff on copper from some countries.
There is, and actually it's on, that went into effect early August, and currently it's for any copper that comes into the United States, including if you buy your copper in the United States, take it out, work it, bring it back in.
Oh, really?
It's kind of we're just going to throw it all against the wall and then kind of figure out what sticks.
So this impacts your company too?
Oh, definitely.
Oh,
definitely.
For some reason I thought that maybe because it was from Mexico, it might be
currently no
excluded.
Currently no. Yeah, there's it just applies to everything.
Wow.
Everything.
That's a huge tariff.
It is a huge tariff. It's a huge
especially
tariff.
on such a material, like I said, data centers.
Right.
Even if people don't enjoy this, you need it in your home wiring and your commercial building wiring. And,
it's a foundation to the economy and so many things. Electric motors, electric vehicles.
Generators.
Inverters.
The
wiring in your house. Plumbing. Well, plumbing not so much anymore.
Right.
Well, you still can get copper plumbing, but
I prefer PEX plumbing.
The PEX is easy to work with.
PEX is easy,
Easy to work with.
But you're right, all the electrical components, copper wiring, copper coils, magnets, motors, think about robot production.
Yeah, so many different aspects of our economy. And then, throughout time, and whether it's cookware, before plastics, copper was basically like the material that was used for producing everything, pails, buckets. Just because it was so easy to work and turn into sheet and then turn into products.
And my grandparents were young in World War II. And I remember them telling me stories about how the government would have metal reclamation drives for you to turn in all your copper here, turn in your steel, turn in this and that.
Oh, yes.
And they would they'd melt it down and smelt it and use it to make, tanks or whatever,
anything,
for airplanes, weapons of war.
Yes.
And the American people, they gathered up all their metal and gave it to the war machine, which I wouldn't do that today.
Yeah.
But they did.
Yeah.
Different era.
Oh, for sure. Actually, I one of the things I have is it's something called a rail gun. It was a friend of mine. Her father worked here at UT developing this technology.
Like a railgun? Like
Railgun, yeah.
Like
This thing
electromagnetic
shoots those
accelerator?
Yes, it shoots those massive, tungsten bullets that, anyhow.
Yeah.
The capacitor for one of those, he gave it to me. It's just filled with copper. So
yeah.
I'm doing
Sure.
a little bit of swords to plowshares with that thing. All of the copper that we use is actually recycled copper.
You're kidding me.
Right.
I didn't know that.
All reclaimed. It's mostly out of like electric motors. We need a copper that's number one shiny bright in the recycling world.
Yeah.
Which is a 99% pure copper. That when we in the reclamation process we add about 2% zinc to that. That helps with the melting, and then we turn it into sheet, and then those sheets we form into all the different pieces that we have.
I have so many questions for you about that, but I want to make sure that we introduce this. This is a water filter. It's a gravity filter. And like a lot of gravity filters, the top part has the ceramic filters in it. So you fill the water up here, and gravity does the rest, and it drips down. Oh, pardon me.
Yep.
I don't want to damage it.
No, we've already beat the bejesus out of it. So anything else you do is just going to add character here.
So then it drains down here, and then the copper element itself has a natural antibacterial quality to it.
Lots of properties to copper.
Can you talk about that?
Certainly, I'd love to. When I first started working with copper, I didn't know that much about the material other than I had this draw to it. And one of the first times I was showing it somewhere, there was an Indian man that came up to me, and I was carrying this kind of old, basically like a pitcher. And he says, "Oh, this is just like my grandmother had in our house in India." And I was like, "Oh, really? What for?" He says, "Oh, we store our water in there because then it just, you leave it overnight and it tastes very good and cool and fresh, and it's good for your health and all of your joints." And I was like, "Oh, interesting." And I didn't think anything else about it for 10 more years.
Yeah.
Because at the time I was making a lot of stuff for the food service industry, Schaefer's and things like that. Previous incarnation of our business. And then I just started hearing kind of about the, Ayurveda and these ancient traditions of using copper, where people would store their water in copper. And it was, according to their, kind of ancient medical, wisdom, it was great for all kinds of things in your body, whether it was to balance your energies or it's great for your skin and your hair. All of your joints, similar to wearing, like a copper bracelet for arthritis or you're having problems with a joint. Copper is integral in all this, one, in the soft tissue, and then also in our body's immune system. It's integral into that. And on that same principle, which really, it was only, I think, in the 50s that they rediscovered what they call the oligodynamic effect. I say rediscover because they always knew that, this copper is clean, it's going to kill anything that's in there. And, one of the reasons I think that copper was used as a water vessel, especially somewhere like India where you're dumping dead bodies in one side of the river and you're pulling, your water out of the other side of the river. It basically kills all of these viruses and bacterias. And it's just they're starting to use it a lot in hospitals.
Absolutely.
Right. Because
copper surfaces and doorknobs and so on.
Sure.
This is naturally antibacterial.
Kills all these things that are going around in a hospital that you go in and you come out, worse than you were before. But, with copper as a touch surface, it does that.
There's something else really interesting. Let me add to this that, so as part of my research into natural health and longevity, I've come across various peptides and peptide therapy. And I use one of them. It's called BPC 157 for healing from old sports injuries, and it works great. But I notice in that one of the peptides that women especially use for cosmetic improvement is a copper peptide. And so it's actually, they are copper atoms that are bound to a certain protein configuration. And women use that both internally and externally on their skin for a youthful appearance. So copper is like regaining this amazing reputation for youthful appearance.
It's working very well on you.
Well, no, I'm not using that. I'm not using. I use my smoothies. I'm into turmeric and nutrition and everything.
Definitely.
But copper peptides are very functional in so many ways as well. I mean, there's so many things. There's also, I interviewed a man during COVID that was talking about a copper nasal spray that he said would protect you from, the pandemic or the viruses or whatever was going around. I don't have all the details on that in my mind right now, but I remember that copper was the solution in that interview. I just mentioned that. I'm not trying to make health claims on your products, by the way. I'm just saying that copper has so many properties, and I think humanity has only just begun to really discover them all.
Right, or rediscover.
Yes.
Yeah, in some sense. I think one of the first times they figured that, modern science figured out, was with a bunch of soldiers were dying of some kind of infection in French Legionnaire, North Africa, and it was water that was going through a system. And they changed the coils out to copper, and it just stopped all of that because these bacteria were growing on these things. And there's, I receive a lot of, people share a lot of knowledge with me about copper and how it works. And, I don't want to say, oh, this is going to, make you live forever.
No.
But my personal experience is just that when I changed over to drinking all of my water out of copper, I noticed, a change that year is that I just didn't get the common colds that were coming through and hitting me in my household 2 or 3 times a year. I just, my health just improved, and I there's something about this, whether it's, and I believe very much that the copper definitely has an impact on the health,
I believe so too.
Yeah. In addition to that, anything I think that where, you're using this as a daily ritual that's focusing on, on your health, and I'm doing this because it's good for me.
Yes.
And it just is like drinking that intention.
Well, there are at least 3 layers of this that I can think of. So number 1 is just, let's say, the materialist physics point of view. Mm-hmm. So water goes into the vessel, especially if it's rainwater or a little bit lower pH. It's going to ionize a certain number of copper ions.
Ionize specifically,
that will go into the water. And we actually have a lab. We could measure the copper concentration of the water because we have ICP-MS instruments. Like we test for heavy metals and things like that, but we also test for copper. So that'd be an interesting experiment just to test it. Anyway, that's one level. So there's a certain amount of physical copper ions in the water. Then secondly, there's an energetic level. And it depends on our audience and how much they've investigated, homeopathy or energy medicine or energy healing. But there's something really special about the precious metals, copper, silver, and gold. I wouldn't want to drink silver because it's a heavier metal.
Right.
And gold doesn't ionize very easily, as you know. Copper's perfect. It's right there in that sweet spot. And then the third thing is the geometry of the vessel. I believe that also imparts something energetically to the water. There's something called structured water, right? I've heard all kinds of terms over the years, but water that flows through a stream.
Right.
It encounters shapes of stones and rocks and spheres and circles. There's something in nature about sacred geometry that many people believe is imparted onto water, that water has a memory. The work of Dr. Emoto out of Japan, looking at snowflake crystals under a microscope, combined with certain types of intention, showing that the water forms structures based on your intent.
You're speaking my language.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's cool stuff.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah, the properties of water. We worked with a man that has these structured water systems that just, it's like it passes through a vessel that just like what you're talking about, where the way that it flows through there, it just kind of realigns or pulls out some of the, maybe not pulls out, but realigns the water as it's been going through all these different systems. And
right. Is there a vortex in that?
There is, yeah. It's a vortex. It's a kind of a series of glass marbles that are, arranged in there, and then also the way that it funnels, it naturally gets the water to spin as it comes out.
Because water wants to move too.
Right.
Water wants to move.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of Veda Austin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, no. It's funny.
Her freezings are amazing.
Well, I've actually replicated her experiments using freezing xylitol crystals. Right here. I had our microscope set up, and we were replicating that here.
Yeah.
But using xylitol, not water.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm very familiar with that. and
Right.
Dr. Emoto.
I've thought about doing it with with the copper that comes out of here, or the copper water that comes out. It'd be interesting. It'd be
That
interesting
would
to
be
do.
interesting.
Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or we could mix copper with liquid xylitol that's melted and see how that impacts the reformation of the physical structures. Because I don't know if you've ever seen it, but I did things here under the microscope where we could watch xylitol render 3D structures in real time as it's freezing at room temperature. And it would render structures that were absolutely extraordinary. Some of them looked like artwork. It would sketch out objects in some cases.
I'm only familiar with xylitol and the chewing gum that I just had driving
It's
over.
the same xylitol. You can melt it. And I found that like filming water freezing requires a very cold room. So I realized you can use xylitol and do it at room temperature.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, and it has the same effect.
Right. Right.
So yeah, we should put some copper in it. That'd be fun.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, to also speak the shape and the form of this vessel and copper, the tradition that I come out of in Mexico, where they've been working with copper for 1,000 years, it originally started off as production of these little copper bells.
I was want to ask you what the copper bell is all about.
I have this life project that's called the Copper Bell Diaspora, and I just hand them out wherever I go. And they're people similar to, wanting to touch the copper, just the sound and, whether it's like, Angel Gets Its Wings or your motorcycle, the bell on the motorcycles, all different applications. And originally there in Mexico, these bells were used for kind of their, spiritual practices. There's a sound that passed between the veils between the different, reality, whether it's like, the Day of the Dead is a really big celebration there in the region where I work.
Well, what's really interesting to me, because my background's also in music and sound engineering, but metals have a multi-harmonic resonance, right? So this sound actually exists at many different harmonies simultaneously, and the nature of that sound depends on the structure of the metal, the composition of the metal.
Certainly,
right?
yeah.
So you're actually hearing physics through a bell. Like a bell translates matter into sound.
Right.
And that's a transformation that I think is symbolic of the transcendence into the spiritual world, from physical to spiritual, from physical to sound, from matter to vibration. I mean, it makes sense that it's used in spiritual practices.
Right. I guess, quantum physics, we're all just kind of waves, you either pinpoint where we are or how we're moving. And and each one of these bells, they all have their own unique tone. There's a whole science to bell making that's just all depends on, the material, the shape of it.
Oh, yeah.
If you probably open that other one over there, it has a totally different tone to it.
And the thickness, everything, the curve, like, is a really interesting curve of how it opens at the bottom. And I'm sure that's very important for the sound.
Sure. Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting to talk to you about all of this, and I really appreciate the fact that you went through the learning of the craft of how to work with copper, so that when you now oversee the artisans there, or you're visiting the factory, let's say, and you want a certain piece made a certain way, like, what you're talking about.
Right.
And you know what it takes to make it.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I feel like we miss so much in our modern education, is this like really grounded knowledge in things. And, similar to what's happened to our American production, is just a lot of that knowledge has been sent to other places. And, regaining that foundation of knowledge, something, my son, he's a sophomore in high school, and I'm just, I'm like, pay attention in class, but, really pay attention to the things that you're getting experience from. And I have him, he runs our engraving, we do customization, he's figuring out how to use material.
Oh, okay.
When he was younger, he'd come down to the shop with me and hammer things out, and just, giving him, passing it on. And this, this business is very much a family business. In Mexico, I studied under a maestro, Don Maximo, probably one of the greatest living
Don
copper
Maximo.
artisans. Don Maximo.
That's actually his name, Maximo.
Oh, yes.
That's,
yes.
what a great
Maximo.
name. Yeah.
Oh, it's a great name. And he's an amazing man. And like any great maestro, he makes the work look so easy.
Right.
So easy.
Until you try it yourself.
Oh, yes.
You're like, what?
Oh, yeah. And I remember when I had to learn how to swing a hammer. You know, I hammered nails and everything, but, you know, it was just like, to really hit a hammer and get it to do what I wanted to do was just, you know, it was a whole... And sure, I could have read about it, and I did. I read about it, and, you know, and people explained it to me, but it wasn't until I actually, like, took it up and did it and messed things up, and then just... There's like, we were talking a little bit about, you know, this like kind of how this reminds you of maybe Mayan or Aztec and the crafts in Mexico.
Yeah.
There's an amazing manual intelligence. And,
Yes.
And in my experience, I see that, our minds are, they're great tools, but there's a whole other way that we learn things. It's just kind of by doing them in this tactile experience. And it's like the hands have a mind of their own and a way of like learning. And also when I sit down and work on something where I'm, hammering something out, it's just, all of a sudden I'm in a different place and everything's just kind of happening. And
there's something in the Mexican, Central and South American culture about craftsmanship that is just extraordinary. When I lived in South America, I got to watch a bricklayer craftsman actually build a circular brick dome from the ground up all the way to the top keystone pieces in real time. And the way they operate with the mortar and the bricks and the placement and the timing and the structure so that it doesn't cave in on you. Like if I try to build a dome out of bricks, I'm getting bricks on my head probably, but this guy nailed it. And it was just, you could tell this is like 20 years of expertise.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. And it's amazing to watch. And we forget about that because we want everything automated and machine and, exactly the same. And that's a boring world, actually.
Right. Very.
It's like, I don't want it the same.
Yeah.
I want to see the human side of things.
And there's, very much a human element. Things are, there's like when something's made, it's almost like it's not an imperfection. It's a uniqueness that goes into a piece. It gives it a lot of, character. And, granted, we have tolerances that we need to meet when we're making things.
Of course.
We're not trying to make the most perfect thing possible. We want it to, we want to make the best thing that we can do. And, we imbue all of this with, just kind of our spirit of work. And in those experiences, it also has opened my eyes to just looking at things and, appreciating, more around me and the human element that's in everything.
Yeah. And every time a person purchases a product like this, it infuses economic incentive into the human craft. It feeds families, it employs people, it keeps the art alive. Let me mention the website again, folks, if you want to get some of this for yourself, healthrangerstore.com/copper. And there's the entire product line from Sertodo. And right here, look, a mixing bowl. That's what I want to eat my organic grapes out of a copper mixing bowl. Okay, that's for sure. And I want grapes with seeds in them because I hate seedless grapes because all the nutrition is in the seeds.
Okay.
So and the skin, I should say. But I want to get copper platters and plates. In fact, I'm going to be a big customer of yours, and I'm going to actually just restock my kitchen with copper.
I sure appreciate it. We love it. Yeah, and very much it's this relationship with our customers, and everything that we make has come about from like dialogue like this with people. Oh, how about something like what about copper? Actually, it started off with copper cups. Drinking water. And I was like, oh yeah, I'd like to use those myself. Yeah, we'll make some of those, and then, progress to, well, what about a water container? I'd like to store my water in some copper. Yeah, why is that? Well, it's, does this. And I'm like, and that's where all of our, it's a whole relationship that we have with our, with our customers, with our, really our patrons as much as anything.
Absolutely. And let me add this as a nutritionist to our audience. I have often told people that it's better to get copper from natural sources than from multivitamins. Mm-hmm. And so I've even previously warned people, like, if you can find a multivitamin without copper in it, and you get copper from natural sources, which includes some types of seafood and meats and things like that, then that's your best bet. But with what you offer, this is a great way to get copper that's ionized, which means it's absorbable. And then I wouldn't get it in supplements. I wouldn't get it in multivitamins, because I think they put too much of the multivitamins.
Okay.
Actually, put like 4 milligrams in there. And if you're taking the multivitamin and you're getting other copper, that's actually more than you need. The thing about copper is it's so potent and powerful. It's a trace mineral.
Right.
Right. You don't need to consume copper like calcium or magnesium.
Right.
It has a multiplier effect, which I think proves its energetic qualities. A little bit goes a long way.
Definitely. It is it is a very powerful material. One of the things that we also would get is, people worried about, am I getting too much copper? And our bodies just naturally process and balance the amount of copper that you have in there, unless you have, I think it's called Wilson's disease, where a body doesn't process copper, and then even copper coming through your water pipes can be dangerous.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about overdosing on copper from
Yeah.
dishware, water pitchers, and water filters.
Right.
Only if I were supplementing it
Yeah.
would it be an issue, because then your body has a harder time dealing with it. You're kind of forcing it down your throat in large quantities. 4 milligrams is a lot compared to what you're getting in here is like parts per million
Right.
copper. We're talking orders of magnitude difference
Right.
in the copper amount
Yeah.
that you're getting.
Orders of magnitude different, but I just personally noticed a change in my life when I started drinking all of my things out of copper. Not only that, I noticed also attention to just the water quality, like, as you mentioned about what's your water source, we've had a couple times here where the municipal water system failed, and they're like, "Oh, there's boil water notices," or "My water smelled like fish," and then they say, "Oh, boil your water."
Ugh. I don't want to have boiled fish water. That
Right.
doesn't sound good.
No. I think it was the zebra mussels that were going into the upper lakes that were in the intakes.
Oh, really?
For a while. But then one thing that helps address that, along with heavy metals and any kind of contaminants that are in the water, are these water filters, the filters that go in there, the gravity filters.
Ceramic elements.
It's a diatomaceous earth ceramic shell.
Oh.
It has a silver impregnation in there that just helps from biofouling if it sits around for a while,
Right.
which you're not really going to get with the copper. And then the functional element is carbon. Carbon filter inside there that removes most all of these, forever chemicals. Definitely removes all the chlorines out of your water. So it'll take
And heavy metals.
Yeah, and heavy metals.
Yeah.
Phosphates. I have a client up in Iowa that used this, and they sent me a picture of their water filters after 3 months.
Yeah.
And they looked like the inside of old cigarette butts.
From some other filter.
This was just from filtering out the water.
Oh, wow.
Just the contaminants that were in their water. And I think it's coming up quite a bit right now about the quality. Iowa has the highest cancer rate and some of the worst quality water from a lot of their agricultural business, which they've had a lot of trouble even speaking about in Iowa, because the industrial agriculture is such a
so powerful
strong,
in that state. Yeah,
strong.
The Iowa legislature is totally owned by Monsanto or Bayer now.
Yeah.
We've talked about that before too. But it's something else interesting. Even in Texas, did you know that the data centers that are planned by the year 2030, they'll be using 400 billion gallons of groundwater, and what that means is that the water quality that will be available to people will go down, because they'll be using lower and lower grade water sources to make up for the difference in water. And that means, our water quality is going to get worse in Texas. Now, I collect rainwater. I drink rainwater exclusively. We collect rainwater because we make colloidal silver, by the way, using silver plates from Mexico, it turns out.
Oh, right.
Yeah. But we make our own colloidal silver here using,
Yeah.
Ionization of silver off the silver plates, positive silver ions. And then we use that to make numerous products that we have that all have these amazing properties. But rainwater is the cleanest water, but very few people actually have rainwater.
Right.
They've got city water, which is usually groundwater or sometimes recycled surface water. Mm-hmm. and all that can be problematic.
Yeah, yeah. The filters, I feel like having a filter is a good thing to have in any water situation, and it can be for on grid or off grid. It's just going to really improve the quality of the water that you're getting. I think even with the standards that they have and the kind of things they put in the water, it's not necessarily things that I would want to drink. And their levels are they're more like, oh well, this isn't going to kill you, quickly.
Yeah, quickly, yeah. But combined with the 300 other chemicals that we also put in there, who knows?
Yeah.
And let me just describe this too. Now, not trying to get you in any trade name trouble. We've been a supporter of the Berkey company for many years, and I would describe this in a general sense as kind of like a big Berkey type of configuration, but made of copper by artisans. Mm-hmm. Is that a kind of a fair?
Oh, sure. I think the gravity water systems, really, a lot of it's, they've been around forever. In Mexico, I've seen where they have these basically like
I've seen them clay.
Limestone, or clay, or like a limestone, and it's just got this same shape, and they pour the water on the top, and then it just filters through the stone. And I've seen a couple filters like that. They were definitely, pre-Columbian style filters. And over in the United Kingdom, there's a company, we used to work with them on their filters, Berkveld.
Sure, I've heard of that.
Yeah, Berkveld, and they make also some nice water filters, and they, their gravity water systems they started making in, over 100 years ago. And yeah, just this idea that you're going to filter your water through something. So it just for name recognition, it's something people might be familiar with. This is like a Berkey system. It's just a gravity water purification system. We've got 2 tanks. When we make things, we like things to be functional and beautiful. And so I was like, well, let's put a nice little waist on it. So it looks, and it helps with the flow of the water. It's something I want to set out
really
on my
beautiful.
counter.
Yeah, absolutely. This is, again, something you'd want to have out even if you're not using it.
Yeah.
It's like, it just looks gorgeous.
Yeah. Yeah, and it has to do also with the tooling, how, what that influences the shape. Most of the stuff we spin out on a spinning lathe, and so we're spinning it over a mold.
Oh, interesting.
That shapes the metal onto the form. And
I would love to see that.
Oh, it's
love to
amazing.
see a video of that.
Yeah,
that'd be so cool.
Yeah, I can send you some of that. It's a fun process.
Now, let me ask you about the history of art in Mesoamerica and the use of especially copper, silver, and gold over time, spanning really, thousands of years. Right. Is how this goes back. Of the places I've toured, I've toured like ancient civilization sites throughout Central and South America before, and some in Mexico. And I've always been struck by the incredible detail of the metals. And I also wonder how much of this artwork has been lost to pillaging because somebody wanted the gold out of the artwork, so they stripped it out. But talk to us about the history of craftsmanship and the appreciation of metals in the art, spanning back really thousands of years.
Right. Yeah. You mentioned you'd been in South America. Where in South America was that?
Well, for example, I lived in Ecuador for some time. But I've toured in Peru and other places and in Central America, like Panama and so on. Yeah.
Yeah. I lived down there for a little while myself.
Did you?
Yeah, Ecuador's amazing. And actually, the origins of this metalwork, the metallurgy in South America was really highly developed. Even more so than in Mesoamerica. When I did Latin American studies at the University of Texas.
Really?
Yeah, just by chance, one of the few people ended up working in their field. When I was in school there, the dominant theory actually, there was no communication between South America and North America. People migrated down from the Bering Strait or whatever, and went down to South America and forgot everything else from where they came from. And these two places are just two separate worlds. And when I came across this, this copper work, I was really interested in the history of it, and where, according to their legend, like this copperwork just appeared out of nowhere, associated with what was called the Quetzalcoatl. It was the feathered serpent. He was like a harbinger of peace and culture, and brought this technology there to the to this area in western Mexico. And in their codices in the Anthropology Museum in Mexico City, which is, I think, is one of the most amazing museums in the world.
I'd love to see that.
Oh,
I'd love seeing museums in other cultures.
This museum it's spectacular about all the different cultures in Mexico. But
wow,
these people, their codice is, their origin is that they arrived through these portals on the backs of turtles, onto the coast of western Mexico. And
maybe they were referring to the Galapagos or something.
I'm not sure, but as it turns out that as I found this, I went to the Benson Library, which is the world's greatest collection on Latin American literature and documents. It's an incredible facility, and I could find one PhD paper from the 70s. It was stuffed in the back of a corner somewhere about this copperwork. And this guy said, well, I think that what's going on here is that there was actually trade going on from these South American civilizations with this region in Mexico. And they were traveling up and down the coast looking for spongulus shells, which were what was being used in trade and money, and then they kind of established some settlements and brought this technology for making these copper bells, this casting, which is this technique was like a copycat of stuff that was going on down in South America. And when I'd started this, I had read this book that really kind of just opened my mind to the fact that there's so many holes in history, and there's lots of ways to fill them. And it was a book called Fingerprints of the Gods.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, Graham Hancock.
Yeah.
And all of his talking about all of his metallurgy and those things there. And when I started doing this, I was like, oh, I found a fingerprint of the gods at this place in western Mexico. And
I've interviewed Randall Carlson.
Okay, and
ancient civilizations.
Okay.
And a lot of theories about the loss of ancient civilizations, and how all that has happened, and how many of the ancient ruin sites are covered up to make sure that we don't discover the hidden knowledge.
Right.
I mean, that's a very real thing.
Yeah.
And then we find these ancient artifacts that look like motors and gears and batteries and things, and then they just write it off, bury that in the basement of the Smithsonian,
Sure.
Don't want to put that out for people to see.
It doesn't fit with our modern, worldview of, this is the pinnacle of how anything is developed.
Right.
And, there's so many civilizations have come and gone, and each with their own apex. And
that's right.
And there are currents, I feel like, that, that continue through different things. And I feel fortunate that I've kind of landed on something that goes back, through a large part of history, which is this copperwork. And, and just because being a part of that story.
The table of elements has never changed throughout history. That's what's beautiful about it. And, copper is copper is copper. I jokingly explain to my audience, the reason gold has its own square on the table of elements is because gold isn't any other element. It's only gold, and it can't change without fusion or fission into something else.
Right.
So copper is copper, gold is gold. And I think many ancient civilizations had much higher knowledge than we do today about elements and the interaction in the spiritual and physical realms, the synergistic qualities of these things. And I even think back to ancient cultures and ancient languages like the language of Quechua, right? Which the language itself is predisposed to describing a spiritual world is larger than our material world in Western civilization today.
Right.
The language is expressively open to bigger ideas.
Yeah, I have heard language described as it's the architecture that sets up our interpretation of the world.
Yeah.
And in some sense, they had a completely different world vision that allowed them to see things in different ways. And
yes.
Like Egypt, the Ankh symbol for life is also the symbol for copper. It's this, it's interchangeable.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it just, all these different, ways of looking at the world through so many different lenses.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And, anything that helps expand our vision and open us up beyond, the kind of the rut that we might find ourselves in, I think is, worth exploring.
It's very interesting. I talk about the juxtaposition of the artificial world with the real physical world. And at the same time, as much as I appreciate all of this, I'm also, like, my company has built an AI engine. And the AI engine is free. It's Brighteon.ai. And it's designed to impart human knowledge on things like natural medicine and nutrition and self-reliance and so on. But as part of the acquisition of materials for training the AI engine, I've collected a massive repository of scientific papers in non-English languages, including Chinese, and a lot of them in Spanish. And I'm currently working through that to try to discern what's useful. But almost every book that's been written in Spanish and almost every science paper in Spanish has been digitized. And it's more than just me. There are other people and other entities that already have copies of all that knowledge.
Yeah.
So it's not going to vanish. It just has to be sort of mined, like copper. It's got to be mined for the gems of knowledge that were even known just a few decades ago, but have been forgotten by our modern times.
Yeah. How do we pass knowledge?
Yeah.
How do we pass knowledge on? Share knowledge. And
knowledge can be lost if you're not careful to preserve it.
Yeah.
It has been lost. The burning of the Library of Alexandria, etc.
Right.
Right. Look. I mean, the Roman Empire.
Yeah. Burning of the codices in Mexico.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
How many times throughout history did the emperor say, "Let's burn down all the knowledge because we want to impart our knowledge onto that slave civilization. We're going to make them slaves."
Still, we persist.
I don't know how we got down this rabbit hole, but it's. I'm really glad we're having this discussion because this is really important about how is human civilization sustainable?
Right.
If we keep making the same mistakes of history and not even realizing that those were already made.
Right. Yeah. Right. I don't have an answer, but I enjoy that I have something to focus on.
Totally.
And just, I feel like as much as anything that carries us through, whatever it is that we may believe, that's almost like gravity, and it'll pull us into, AI is going to be a real interesting transformation. And I talk to my son quite a bit about it. What is it, what can you do that AI is not going to come and take your job? And where AI is taking this like bottom layer of work, well, that's where most everybody got all of their, busted their chops to be able to develop up on top of there. And, there's a way that it can definitely, serve us and augment our experience. And
it's a great research tool.
Yeah.
It can find things like, as an example, when I funneled, millions of documents of nutrition and health into our AI engine. And then I was using it for research one day to find out how do you block, in your neurology, how do you block receptor sites for monosodium glutamate, MSG, because I'm sensitive to MSG. And it was giving me a list of things I already knew, and then it popped out, it said methylene blue. I'm like, what? I never knew that. And it says, yeah, methylene blue blocks glutamate receptors. And that's crazy because that's a dye. It's been used as a textile dye.
Yeah, I tried it one time. My teeth turned really blue.
Yeah. Well, so I went out. I decided to test it. I went out to a Chinese food restaurant that often uses MSG. And I said, I'm gonna be the experiment. So I took the methylene blue. I ate the Chinese food, ready for the big headache and everything.
Yeah.
No headache.
Oh, okay.
It worked. So the AI engine told me something that I would never have discovered.
Right.
And the same thing can happen with even, the Spanish PhD papers that have been published before. There must be hidden gems of knowledge, even about metallurgy, about copper, about gold, that are long since forgotten, but can reemerge through AI.
Sure.
So it has a use.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. Giving us more access to knowledge. My son's been working on a car that I gave him. He just turned 16. Got wrecked, and a friend of mine gave it to me.
Oh.
He's
here, have a wrecked car?
Yeah, here, have a wrecked car.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So he's got to work on it. And I'm like, yeah, you got to take off the bumper to get to the radiator. And he said, well, how do I do that? And I was just like, this is why I gave it to you. Yeah. So he's on there with YouTube and just pulling all that up. And I'm amazed
Yeah.
at what he can, the access that he has to like get things at his fingertips, but then using his fingertips to actually, put that into play and practice and,
Yeah.
the actual tactile world. I mean, because computers are great. I love my computer, but I bang on that at the end every day. It looks the same. And
Well, yeah, and what people need to remember is that you live in the real world, you have a physical body, and that physical body needs water.
definitely.
The water needs a vessel. Otherwise, it's all over the place.
Yeah.
This is why nutrition matters. This is why copper matters. This is why what you do really matters, because we still live in a 3D world. As much as people want to escape into a virtual world or a deep fake world or artificial girlfriends or whatever they do these days with the chatbots that now are creating like relationships with people,
Yeah.
which is weird.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Pull yourself out of that world, come back into the real world, have good nutrition, which is what I teach, good food, surround yourself with things that are beautiful and things that are functional. Your life will improve. I mean, it's a simple rule of thumb that we never had to remind previous generations of this because they didn't live in the virtual world.
Right.
Now we do. We have to remind people, come back.
Right.
Come back to reality. Touch a piece of copper.
Sure.
Like feel the texture of this. Drink the water.
Share it with a friend.
It. Absolutely.
Yeah.
These make great gifts, I would think.
Definitely. Yeah. Everybody loves shiny things.
Do you, how's your supply chain? Like, do you have enough to handle a surge in orders if like, Christmas time or whatever?
Yes. Well, currently I'm working on we've had our last production run held up just as we're trying to figure out the new kind of bureaucratic paperwork situation for for dealing with the tariffs, and the instruction on it is kind of murky.
I would imagine.
Yeah, and so we're about ready to get our last run up through, and we always build up for the holidays. But that said, we also there's a lot of handwork that goes into this, and we don't just turn the machine on and all of a sudden it's cranking out a million widgets.
Right.
But we deal with surges. We are always currently we're reworking some tooling in our workshop.
But are you going to have to raise your prices because of the tariffs?
Inevitably, yes. Yeah, I mean, it's how much we have to raise our prices depends on how murky the rules are and what we can, how much we're being tariffed.
Right. But there's a pending Supreme Court decision on the legality of the Emergency Economic Act that Trump invoked for that tariff.
I've seen that. Yes.
And if the decision comes back knocking down those tariffs, everybody will have to be issued a refund on the tariffs they paid. Can you imagine waiting for your government tariff refund check?
No.
It's in the mail.
I can't imagine. Yeah, and during COVID, we didn't apply for any of the government funding things just because I just don't want to deal with all the paperwork.
No kidding.
Yeah. And we were fortunate that during COVID, business was really good for us. All of a sudden, people couldn't go to a bar, so they were ordering all of our barware online.
Oh, that's interesting.
It just, our business, did really, and I was making this transition from doing a lot of wholesale to directly to our, website. I just wanted to have more interaction with my, end user. And that really just kind of flipped the switch for us. It was a really interesting time for us. Business was really good, and then we also had, a couple of. This is where I was. Our website, our web host wanted to shut us down because we were saying that copper is antibacterial and antifungal. And I said, well, we need certification about that.
What?
And so I, sent them all these articles from the Smithsonian, and they're like, well, we need a certification for every product that you have.
Oh my goodness!
And I was just like,
bureaucracy.
That's not my battle. But nevertheless,
I mean, it's a natural property of the element.
It's a natural property element, right?
It's like saying, gold is shiny.
Right.
I'll prove it.
Right. We need it certified.
We have to have a stamp.
Yeah.
There needs to be a stamp that says gold is shiny.
Yeah, and we didn't want to pay for that stamp. But
insane.
Yeah, and we have dealt with lots of different hurdles throughout, 30 years that I've been doing this, and
Yeah.
actually with the previous administration, and with what was happening with the onshoring of work, Mexico became very strong economically, and the value of the peso just went way up, and that was essentially like all of a sudden our goods were costing 25% more.
Yeah.
Just because of this exchange rate, and
Right. And the dollar's falling this year compared to.
and the dollar is falling.
Other
Yeah,
currencies,
it's
yeah.
and those things are all over the place, and we just continue to do what we do, and deal with whatever the circumstances are that come our way. And with the tariff being at 50%, it's going to affect our prices. I won't know until I get this next shipment through the border how exactly we're going to be tariffed on that. And
I see.
So then after that, and then what happens with the legal situation.
Right.
Currently we don't have our prices haven't gone up in about a year and a half. And we'll see after we get this stuff through.
I think your prices are very reasonable. Where what I'm seeing right now on the website, and folks should realize. Look, just go to healthrangerstore.com/copper, and you'll see the prices. Here's a whole set for $128. That's the Moscow Mule gift set.
Moscow Mule, if you like the strong medicine.
Yeah, there we go. Now, and I think our audience realizes these are handcrafted. It's pure copper, 99% pure. You said a little bit of zinc in it on purpose.
Right.
But this, these aren't churned out by robots mindlessly. But that brings me to another question, and we're getting close to the end of the interview, by the way. And thank you for your time. I don't mean to keep you over. If you need to go, let me know.
You're
doing okay?
I'm enjoying myself thoroughly.
Okay, me too. I'm really enjoying having you here. This is great
Yeah.
to be able to talk about all this. But the Trump administration would say that the reason they're putting the tariffs on copper is to encourage American companies to do more copper mining and more copper goods like this. I'm not aware of any American heritage of this kind of work.
Well, actually,
North America.
sure.
I should say.
It's a great thing. I actually am working with a man who started a copper cookware company. Actually, he took over a company that was, I think they were called Waldo, and they produced in Brooklyn, New York, at the turn of the century. He revived them with their old tooling about 15 years ago, and then has since been kind of moving his production around to different places. And everybody that's doing that work is either dying or retiring, and so we have taken over the production of his work, just because there's not, that knowledge isn't here anymore about doing this kind of work. That's specifically for like our kind of copper, cookware. I see the point in the tariffs is that we want to bring some of this industry back into the United States. I think maybe, the world is, interdependent, and having our maybe North American area where we're, with our neighbors and working, that we can complement, the strengths. I couldn't make this stuff here in the United States with the skill that we have. Just finding somebody that's going to spend 2 years learning how to do all of this kind of work, and then be there to work for us, for the next 20 years.
Right. Because this is a family trade, typically.
Right. Yeah. Oh,
it's part of the culture. It's part of the local town.
Yeah. The generations of people working in this.
Right.
And but there are copper sheet manufacturers. I think there's some like kind of industrial copper applications. These, and that's. And we could get into the economics, but quite honestly, like our costs and just the cost of life and living in here in the United States, it's difficult to make a living, hammering out copper pieces without them being like, $200 for a cup. And regarding the price of our goods, I feel like, very much from the work that we put into it, it's a fair price. And this is something that is going to be here 20 and 30 years from now.
Yes.
So just amortize that over 20 years.
And the economics of the situation are complicated, but our audience understands this. If you think about it, it's U.S. government currency printing that creates these inflationary pressures among the domestic population that raise costs of living. that make it very difficult for anybody to take on a trade like this.
Right.
It's not going to pay the salary of, a computer science expert or something. So inflation actually pushes jobs out of America to other countries. But then there's the craftsman side of this. And right here, you see this holster?
I do.
This leather, this is a company that we've also interviewed, 1791 gun leather. All their leather work is done in Mexico. Mm-hmm. And it's outstanding. It's the best holster I've ever owned, and I've worn it for 3 years now without it breaking, which has never happened before because I wear it on my ranch.
Right.
And I found that the Mexican culture of leather work, which also does exist in America, in Arizona and Texas and New Mexico, et cetera, but especially in Mexico, the leather work craftsmanship is just vastly superior.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the same thing is true with copper in this format.
Yeah, we have highly skilled craftsmen in the United States. And one of the things is that they're just in such small little pockets. And there's not like a tradition that, there was, tradition. I was just out in Oregon at the Timberline Lodge out there. It was a WPA project, and they brought in all of these art, metalsmiths, wood craftsmen, and the place is amazing. And like the work in there, like talking about the stonework and the stonework in there and the steel work and the woodwork, it's just, it's like, wow, somebody is like valuing this work. And they had, a whole, it was like 2 generations of people working on this place.
Wow.
And we just don't see that kind of, patronage, I guess, anymore. And in Mexico, another interesting thing about this region where I work out of is that 500 years ago, this area was organized as like a utopian society. Thomas More's Utopia was written in like 1510 in Britain, like Thomas More. Yeah. He was a Catholic. And then the Catholic Church decided they were going to put those theories into practice in this region in Mexico, which is that you have a kind of a central community, and then you have all these satellite communities that contribute to the general economy. And this community is going to they're going to make pottery. This community is going to do woodwork. This community is going to do copper work. And that social architecture put into place 500 years ago, continues today and continues. That region is like, it has a lot of economic independence and just kind of general wealth that, now there's a lot of other pressures happening there but these traditions are still very much alive, and it's like a community thing that's passed down.
See, that's so critical because in Western civilization, we value economies based on GDP. Gross domestic product. But gross domestic product has no numbers for cultural knowledge or heritage, or resilience or happiness, right? And these things are part of the human condition, and yet they have no value on the spreadsheet. And so, we're living in an artificial set of priorities that were created by the accountants and the governments to say, oh, look, our economy is great. Yeah, but your people are miserable.
Right. Right. So much is missing out of that economic equation.
Right. Your families are not whole. Yeah. Your communities are being torn apart. The local hardware shop that used to be run by Bob has been replaced by Home Depot or whatever. Right. That's never taken into account in the wealth of a nation. But the wealth is more than numbers on a spreadsheet. Yeah. Yeah. And I know you get that.
Definitely. Yeah. Maybe that's why our money is devaluing so fast. There's the things that are real value are kind of missing out of there.
That's right. So I would just remind our audience, if you want surround yourself with real things, with real wealth. To me, this is an example of wealth. And, the picture, etc. These are real things. They're beautiful. As you can tell, there's a whole history behind all of these, the craftsmanship, the artisanship, and also the table of elements, the properties of copper that have to be proven piece by piece. you need a stamp for each piece. But all of this is fascinating.
We have a stamp on every piece.
You have a stamp on every piece?
Yeah.
Did every piece have to be certified?
Oh, yeah. Not like that. Yeah. I think, you can see our touch mark on the bottom there.
Oh, that's to know it came out of your...
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's awesome. That's a long tradition in metallurgy, is that every shop has their as their quinto or their stamp. So like I
That
said,
makes
in
sense.
50 years when the antique virtual roadshow comes through, they're going to turn their Oculus on there and see, oh, Sertodo copper, great stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. I just want to wrap this up by saying I'm really grateful to have met you and to be exposed to what you're bringing to people in America and elsewhere. And I love the fact that you also studied the history of Latin America as your academic endeavor.
Right.
That's really useful. And I love the fact that you're a hands-on guy who's learned the basics of how to do this, if not more than the basics.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. I really appreciate you bringing me in here and just sharing the knowledge and, this discussion here and just talking with people and our neighbors.
Yeah.
There's a lot of value in that I really appreciate. I appreciate you reaching out to us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that part of, not to make this, political, but part of the healing of our world has to be that we have to talk to each other and we have to understand and honor other cultures and other traditions. And we have to present value to things that are not valued in the GDP.
Mm-hmm.
And that's culture, and that's joy, that's happiness, that's the feeling of a job well done.
Right.
And valuing humanity, not just machines and robots and factories. If we can't do these things, then how is humanity going to have a future?
Right.
Really. It all comes, we can start with copper, but we get to the big picture, which is the survival of human civilization. And that's really what this discussion is all about.
Uh-huh. I think we'll make it through. I have great hope.
Well, good. I share that hope with you here today, but sometimes I'm worried about the robots,
Sure.
what they might do to us.
Sure.
But,
Well, discussions like this, they just add to the hope.
Well, I also have copper bullets that we can use against the robots.
Yes. Yes.
Like the 300 Win Mag rifle rounds, I've got some copper rifle rounds.
Yeah. The copper is great for all kinds of things.
Yeah, I would rather not use copper kinetically.
Silver
but if I have
silver
to.
for the werewolves and copper for the robots.
Perfect. And if you can lodge that rifle round right into the robot battery, it'll short it out. And it'll just drop.
And we'll take the copper out of there.
There we go.
And we'll turn it into...
Take the lithium, take
Yep.
the copper, strip the robots.
Yeah.
Okay. A little bit of science fiction in every show. All right, but thank you so much. It's been an honor meeting you. Oh, last question. Can you explain to our audience the origin of the name of the company Sertodo?
Oh, sure. Sertodo. My name is Jonathan Beall, and Beall, Sertodo. It's just kind of a direct translation in Spanish, something that I had
Of your
thought
name.
about. Yeah, of my name.
So Beall,
Beall.
todo meaning all,
Todo meaning all.
and ser is a
is
form
to be.
of to be.
Yeah, and kind of like full of life, or the Army motto, "Be all you can be." And I just thought, I need something that's going to allow me to do whatever I want. So
That's so perfect.
so we'll
the company is literally named after you, but it doesn't sound like it's because it's a translation.
It's a translation.
That's so cool. It's a
Yes.
great name.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
Brilliant. All right, Mr. Sertodo.
Sí, señor.
Yeah, perfect.
Dígame, compadre.
Perfecto.
Yes, muy bien.
Okay, well, muchas gracias
Yeah.
for all of your
gracias.
time. Yeah, thank you. Very nice to meet you.
Pleasure is mutual.
All right, and thank you all for watching today. I hope you found this enjoyable. We love to share joy and we love to share amazing craftsmanship. And also, of course, you can help support our organization and get yourself some amazing pieces for your kitchen, for your home. Just check out all these products. You can find them at healthrangerstore.com/copper. Enjoy the copper and also the gold. And I've got gold on my desk here too. I've got gold and silver. Have some silver. We got silver coins.
Okay.
No, wait a minute. Here, let me give you this one. This is a silver coin of veterans. It's a veterans coin.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'll give you that one. I have to keep this one because
Thank you.
This is a Texas coin. The Alamo, Texas.
Okay.
Buffalo, silver buffaloes, gold, silver.
This is a nice minting.
This is a Table of Elements day. Love it.
I love it. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
Enjoy. And thank all of you for watching today. I'm Mike Adams of Brighteon.com. Take care.
Stock up on the long-term storable Ranger Bucket Set. 536 servings of clean organic superfoods for your survival pantry. Certified organic and lab tested for purity. Order now at healthrangerstore.com.